This Sunday, May 24th, is Heritage Sunday in the United Methodist Church. And it is so designated because of the great story of our founder John Wesley's events on May 24th. John Wesley was born on June 28th in 1703 to Samuel, the rector of Epworth, and a 15th child in his family, and Susanna Wesley, the 25th child in her family. John was at once referred to as a brand plucked from the burning. In 1709, John's family was in a fire, and the roof caught fire, and the sparks fell on the beds, and everyone escaped but John. And then two men standing on their shoulders rescued him. He used in his life that he was a brand plucked from the fire, quoting Zechariah 3:2 to describe the incidents. This childhood deliverance subsequently became part of the Wesley legend, attesting to his special destiny and extraordinary work. John Wesley was educated at home, like the rest of his siblings, by his mother. Each child, including the girls, were taught to read as soon as they could walk and talk. They were expected to become proficient in Latin and Greek, and to have learned major portions of the New Testament by heart. Susanna Wesley examined each child before the midday meal and before evening prayers. Children were not allowed to eat between meals, and they were interviewed singularly, one by one, by their mother one evening each week for the purpose of intensive spiritual instruction. After Wesley came to the colonies, when he was going back to England in December of 1737, a great storm hit the ship that they were riding on, and the English on board were so afraid, including Wesley, they thought they were going to die. But the Moravians on board were not afraid. They gathered and prayed and had a sense of calm in their spirits. This maturing spiritual journey that Wesley was on, he was, as a college student, was striving for perfection, had a strict holiness by moral code that didn't offer him that sense of assurance when he was on board this ship. He had not been changed. And after this ride back to England, he realized that a mere code of behavior was not the same. He watched the Moravians on ship, but Wesley was scared. They were connected to God. They had no fear. Wesley did not feel connected, and he felt fear. All of Wesley's method, all of his studies, his role as a priest, as a missionary, none of those things offered him the direct connection to God that allowed him to get past the fear and the failure. This experience of great fear on the ship back to England shook him to his core. Could he have called into question all his calling and all his faith? Maybe. Could this great fear force him to question his faith entirely? Wesley was lacking that sense of deep connection to God. But on May 24th, this is from his journal, on May 24th, 1738, this man, raised in the church, taught by his mother and father, who had taken holy orders, been part of the Holy Club, was a missionary. At the age of 35, he writes this story in his journal, the story of Aldersgate. But it was still a depressed Wesley who attended a service on the evening of 24 May. John Wesley recounted his Aldersgate experience in his journal. In the evening, I went very unwillingly to a society in Aldersgate Street, where one was reading Luther's preface to the Epistle to the Romans, about 9:15, while he was describing the change which God works in the heart through faith in Christ, I felt my heart strangely warmed. I felt I did trust in Christ, Christ alone for salvation, and an assurance was given me that he had taken away my sins, even mine, and saved me from the law of sin and death. His heart was strangely warmed. Today, May 24th, we remember that day so many years ago as a reminder that following the rules alone, having a strict adherence to spiritual disciplines without a deep connection to God, without knowing God, is not the journey that Christ invites us into. We are invited to live a changed life aligned to God's dream for us. Happy Heritage Sunday.